All right, I'd like to call the June 15th, 2023 Wetlands Board meeting to order. We get a roll call, ma'am?
Yes. Board Member Davenport. Board Member Hazelwood. Chairman Hinshelwood.
Here.
Board Member Hotchkiss. Board Member Payne. And Board Member Rahman.
Here.
And then last but not least, Board Member Winters.
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. The policy of the Commonwealth of Virginia and the City of Suffolk is clearly stated in the Virginia Wetlands Act as follows: shall preserve and prevent the despoliation and destruction of wetlands within its jurisdiction while accommodating necessary economic development in a manner consistent with wetlands preservation. All right, has everybody read the minutes that we were sent?
Yes, sir. I move that we approve the minutes as written.
The second.
Okay, so we'll try to do this by voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay, so the motion passes with a vote of 5-0.
So let's see. Now we open up public hearing.
Yes, I would like to go.
We're going to talk about the public.
Yes, I would like to go ahead and notify the board that unfortunately the application we were supposed to present before you today, staff did not provide proper notice to adjacent agencies. We are required to do so 20 days prior to the meeting. So therefore, this would not be a legal public hearing. With that being said, staff does recommend to remove the request from the agenda. It would be appropriate for the board to make a motion with a voice vote if you are so inclined to do so.
Motion to remove. I second it.
Okay, we're going to try to do this by a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay, so the motion passes with a vote of 5-0.
This will be coming up in the July meeting.
Yes, this will go before you for the scheduled meeting for July 20th.
Super. All right. Let's see. No sense in closing the public hearing. We need to entertain a motion. We already did that. Any old business we're going to take care of?
Yes, I would like to bring your attention to the last document in the agenda packet that you have. I know the last meeting, which I believe was June of 2022, you guys had requested various legislative updates. So we did provide a copy of the Living Shoreline Development of General Permit Guidance from the state code. Sean Dolan with the Attorney's Office will be providing a legislative update at the next meeting. So that will be forthcoming. So I wanted to make sure to at least get the one document to you guys in case you have any questions.
Does that answer the other business? The board discussed a document that lists the minimum review criteria required for applications, et cetera, et cetera. Is that this?
No, it is not.
Okay. Didn't it kind of sound a little bit like it?
That whole thing was settled, I think.
What was that?
So, I haven't looked at this app. I didn't really go through it to look at it based on that because Grace called me and said that we weren't going to hold a meeting. So.
Yeah.
But I'll go back and look at it and make sure it meets our list of criteria.
Yeah, so I think you're referring to the list of criteria that you guys had previously discussed that you would like staff to ensure to meet very specific minimum review criteria before bringing it before you. So we have updated that list. If you guys would like a copy of that, I can provide that at the next meeting.
Yeah, sure would.
Yep.
All right. So now we're going to talk about the reserve at Cedar Point.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep, I do know that you guys had requested an update kind of where that project is. So I wanted to provide a little bit of background since it's been a little over a year since this kind of came before you. So the original joint permit application for the reserve at Cedar Point was for riprap bank stabilization. That originally came before you guys May 19th of 2022. It was originally tabled for 30 days. The applicant then requests to withdraw the application. Since they withdrew the application, they have resubmitted a new permit. And this permit, I believe, was submitted sometime in September of 2022. The permit and request is to specifically stabilize the bank for 3 lots where there was, I guess, the most erosion occurring. And so they are now proposing to provide fill, to regrade, and then install riprap. Pretty much on the uplands. So right now, the request would not fall within the local board, the local wetland board jurisdiction at this time. So it's going to be reviewed by city staff as it relates to the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Area Overlay District. We did provide 1 round of comments, so we're just waiting the resubmittal and to kind of work through that request with them.
Thank you. I also just want to go on the record and say that I want to make sure, and I know it's not a wetlands issue, but as a citizen, I want to make sure that forest is protected, because that's the mainstay that's holding that bank up. I walk that property a lot, talk with VIMS. I was talking to a lot of people about it for a long time.
Yeah,
And,
something.
I'm very concerned about it.
Yeah, and something I can assure you is that there is the 100-foot resource protection area buffer that does protect all vegetation. So it is protected, and as of right now, I do not have a request to remove any of the vegetation.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up a question here for the city staff, and I think the city lawyer as well. Over the last 2 years, we have had a continuous flow of the applications we have for lots in North Suffolk up along the river that where erosion is eating away the property of the homeowner. When I've had a chance, I've talked to each and every one of these homeowners when they're out in the audience, and not one of them had any idea that erosion was a threat to their property. Now, I know when the city of Suffolk sets a deed for a property, the 100-foot buffer is implanted on that deed so that they know on the plot on that deed, so they know how to do it. I think we ought to have an ordinance change, a law change in Suffolk where there has to be a medallion placed upon that plot that warns the intended purchaser that there is a threat of erosion. When you have a fetch that's 25 miles, that's a foregone conclusion, but not to somebody that doesn't know anything about that. They just think they're buying a beautiful piece of waterfront property. I would think that we as a city owe the unsuspecting homeowner, a warning of what's to come. Should have Mr. Davenport here.
Sometimes warning labels, are subject of memes, and that's about it.
Well, I know when I bought a home in Indiana, there was a problem there with the specific part, and there was a medallion on the plot, and you had to initial it before the sale went through, that you understood that that was an issue.
But as I was saying in the back, you see practices of these people who do maintenance along these right-of-ways that just cut trees right into the swamp, right into the wetlands, and destroys it. And it's okay. So, I mean, there are a lot of practices and a lot of things that professional and personal that just awareness needs to be, hey, that's probably not a good practice. But anyway, we're getting way off topic. Yes, ma'am. All right, so what do we have next?
In your new business, was anything to be mentioned about education, or can I bring this up as Nansemond River Preservation Alliance? I think there's a bit of an outreach here. It has been mentioned by some of the board members of Nansemond River Preservation to do talks to us and to other members of staff to help with the understanding as where the organization is going to, and to reiterate the need or the work that's going on with riparium, with lots of homeowners in that area who are doing their own oyster restoration plus. So that I'd like to just bring up as new business, as a possibility, an educational talk.
A couple years back, we had a young man in the city of Suffolk that was in high school that had done a paper and actually got some award for doing a paper on living shorelines. He was, I think, parent was part of the Nansemond River. And I tried to I did everything I could do to get the young man to come in here and do a presentation for us. I was excited about it. I thought it'd be a great thing to do. But evidently there was some legal issues with having a public hearing or allowing people to speak that wasn't a public hearing. They didn't want to allow the Wetlands Board, and they specifically told me to quit pushing that. That we don't want to open it up to just comment session. That's not, we only have public hearings, and you can only comment on public hearings. So the training and having other people come to us, the city did not like that idea of us having open mic night, okay? I've tried that before, but we can try it again.
Oh,
Different
right,
people.
there's new personnel on in Suffolk, we have our
But it was the
new
attorneys
CEO.
that didn't like that.
Okay.
Well, what I can say is that inviting guest speakers certainly would be something that, with the cooperation of staff, could be put on maybe an earlier work session.
Okay.
It may not be an agenda item.
Understood. So a work session instead of a meeting?
Absolutely. Maybe schedule one depending on how long
Gotcha. Okay.
how long you were anticipating. Maybe schedule a meeting to start at 5 and coordinate with staff for issues, basically educational issues.
Okay.
And also, Mr. Chairman, I've recently reviewed some cases and looked at certain kind of matters that are related to what you're discussing, and I do think that even if during a public hearing, certainly you could have people provide information during the public hearing. I think there's also room to do exactly what the board is now considering, which is having maybe a work session with an informational presentation. Yes, sir.
And maybe we went about it wrong the last time. And because we were just wanting to invite the young man to come in and stand up and do a presentation, but then that would have invoked the thing that our board would say, hey, we have you can come up and just make comments at our meeting, and then we'd be soliciting everybody. And
Yes,
then
sir.
there had to be
Yes, sir.
rules, and
That's right. In essence, something
it got
that
out of hand real quick.
well, it very easily could.
Yes.
You
watch what you wish for.
What I'm thinking of right now, Mr. Chairman, is the process and procedure for non-agenda speakers that council has, and there would be rules associated with that, and it would there would be some work needed to do that. But I think you could very easily work in a work session with
Then if you have some
informational speaker.
items that you would like me to present to the city, if you want to send me an email with them, I will work with the city staff to try to do that.
Right,
Absolutely
and we do have the new CEO of the Nansemond River Preservation here, Beth Cross. taking over from Elizabeth.
Ms.
and-
Taraski. Okay.
Yep, and has quite a lot of information of where the organization's going, and of course in collaboration with the city of Suffolk to forge strong relationships.
Well, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, through the education.
I think with this whole living shoreline thing, it's a new thing for all of us. And, you know, we've always had a pretty tight control over the wetlands, and now all of a sudden we're just saying, well, it's a general permit. And so I think it's a good idea so that we do get educated on what is allowable, what isn't allowable, and how to interpret it correctly. And it sounds like we've got a pretty good attorney over there has done his research on it, so maybe he can educate us to the new laws and the new things. Because it always changes.
Yeah. And also for the Nansemond River to extend to even council members, so that they have the knowledge of
Yes.
what are we doing, so we're not all isolated. Yeah.
We could probably invite some folks to our work session, absolutely, from the planning commission or whatever entity you'd like. I'm sure we
Okay.
could if it was
Is
an
that all right,
educational
Grace? Is
format.
that-
We could work through the city to do that.
Yeah.
I'll just have to confirm that, and that's something I can follow up on. I think it's very important to provide educational and training opportunities to this board and also staff. So I will be on the lookout for anything that VMRC or even VIMS might be offering as well, and then kind of see what I can organize
See,
with the
I've
board.
always thought that there ought to be some sort of, I wouldn't say collaboration, but there ought to be some sort of communication between this board and the planning commission, because they know way before we do that something's coming before us, right? I mean, they're looking at these things a year or two ahead before we even see them. And I always thought it'd be interesting if there was some way that we knew what they were struggling with, or if we could, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I think there needs to be more of a coordinated effort between the planning commission and the wetlands board, because we kind of work together, even though we never get together. Anyway, I think it's
This
important.
could be the linchpin,
Yeah.
the Nansemond River.
So, I mean,
to-
well, we've always looked at the Nansemond River to try to participate and help us. So, and we've had quite a few members over the years that have participated. So.
Good.
So if you do have those issues that you want to do some education on, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. All right. What else we have?
That is all that I have for this board this evening.
Chairman?
Yes,
if I
sir.
may, just one suggestion to staff regarding the permit that we will be reviewing at the next meeting. I do know for a fact on that specific list of minimum requirements that we mentioned some sort of sequence and schedule that I did not
Yes.
see in the packet. Just want to bring that to your attention.
Yes, I'll reach out to the applicant to get that information.
Yeah, 'cause I think you said they needed to be done by November.
Yes. Speaking with the applicant, the grant that's available to the property owners expires November 1st. So their timeline would have to be somewhere within there.
Yeah,
Yep.
fast track.
Yeah, they're going to be planting wishers quick. Okay.
Does that mean that the grant money comes no later than that, but then they can use the money X number of months into the future, or they have to have it done by that time?
Probably done.
I would have to confirm with the applicant.
Most of the time, when you do grant stuff,
If you don't do it, you lose it.
yeah, you got to be complete, sign off, done.
Before they give you the money?
Yeah, before they finish giving you money, they might give you some up front, but grants are usually pretty tight. Depending on who writes the grant. but-
They leave a reasonable amount of time to complete whatever the grant was there for.
All right, so I guess now it's time we can get a motion to close the meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
There we go.
Aye.
Everybody have a good evening. See you in July.